What's going on, everybody? American Football Network here with another video today. And today we're bringing you guys our Ohio State preview and prediction video. But before we get started, make sure you guys like and subscribe, comment those thoughts and opinions down below. Help me reach that goal of 1,400 subscribers by the end of August. Check out the description for links to our shop, podcast, website, patron page, and our college football roundup channel. Right now we're running a deal over there, 20% off everything on the shop. So go check it out, get some merch and help support the show. We are 6 days away from college football. As it'll be a big one. Florida State, Georgia Tech headlining Week 0 over in Ireland. It's going to be a fun one. I think that's going to be a good game. We might possibly be streaming that game. We'll let you guys know closer to that date. But today we're doing Ohio State. We got a special guest with us, Michael. How you doing today, man?
Good, good. You can find me at the Football Extraordinaire on YouTube as well as Ohio State Hype videos, as I have just rebooted that channel.
And I will have his links in the description as well as pinned in the comments. So you guys can go ahead and click those links, go sub to him, go help him out, and show him some love over there. Let's go ahead and jump in to the video today. So last year, Ohio State goes 11-2 overall, 8-1 in the Big Ten. The two losses coming at Michigan. They lost that one 30-24, and then they lost to Missouri in the Cotton Bowl 14-3. That Cotton Bowl is really, Missouri had their whole team. Ohio State had a lot of opt-outs. That one you don't really care about. But the Michigan loss, obviously, you do. That's the rivalry game. Biggest game of the year for you. Kept you kept you out of the playoff. But you had some big wins throughout the season. Beat Notre Dame on the road 17-14. Beat Penn State at home 20-12. Beat a solid Wisconsin team on the road 24-10. So had some good wins last year. You got a much easier schedule this year for sure. And you brought in a lot of big recruits too. You get Julian Sayin, the 5-star QB. He comes in. Obviously, he's probably not going to be seeing the field a whole lot this year. As Will Howard has been named the starting quarterback. I believe him and Devin Brown are battling for that second spot. You look at Jeremiah Smith, the 5-star wide receiver. Heard nothing but good news out of camp about him. He's going to be a dynamic threat paired with Emeka Egbuka in that wide receiver room. And then the running backs, that's where it's at. Travion Henderson and Quinshad Judkins. Ohio State has the best running back group in the country. So what are your thoughts on just last year and what Ohio State has done so far in the offseason?
Obviously, last year sucked. Kind of a down par year for us, obviously, capped off with the Michigan loss, which is the cherry on the top, as down years ago. But the upcoming roster for this offense, lot to be excited about if you're an Ohio State fan. Obviously, with Will Howard coming in and all the other weapons coming in along with Junkins. I will say this team is loading on both sides of the ball. I will say the one thing about this offense that I think might hold them back a little bit is that offense line, just like last year. Obviously, returning Donovan Jackson, which helps, one of the best guards in all of college football. And obviously, got that great wide receiver group on the outside with Carnell Tate and Emeka Egbuka. Carnell Tate will probably be in the slot this year. Brandon Ennis is being talked as a I'll have to come back to that, kind of as a utility guy. And other than that, Jeremiah Smith, absolute monster. Might already be the most talented wide receiver on this Ohio State squad. And he's only a freshman, raw talent-wise, not actually, Xavier Johnson qualities is what I was looking for when they were talking about Brandon Ennis. And obviously, like he said, I should say, best running back duo in the country. I have a feeling one of these two will probably be in the Heisman race or a Heisman finalist, either Henderson or Junkins, especially with Chip Kelly running the offense. more of a run style offense. Um, and it's just all those deadly running teams at Oregon when he was the coach there. But like I said, the only concern I would really have would be the offensive line, particularly Howard's blind side. Otherwise, I think they got that mostly figured out. And obviously, the tight end battle still going on between G. Scott Jr. and Jamari Thermal. And it's looking like at the moment G. Scott Jr. is going to win that battle.
For sure. Yep. So just an absolutely loaded team. I think Ohio State has the best secondary in college football, maybe even the best defense in the country. Definitely up there in the top five in terms of talent. We'll see how they play. I expect them to play well. That secondary is loaded. It's going to be hard to throw on this team this year. Going to have some elite wide receivers. So a good squad for the Buckeyes. But let's go ahead and jump in to the schedule and get to our predictions. So I'll start us off. It's gonna be pretty simple to start off. Akron, Western Michigan bye week, Marshall. All three of those are going to be wins. No need to discuss those at all. It's going to be just an absolute domination for this Ohio State team. They'll probably put up 60 plus points in all of those games. But then you go on the road to Michigan State to open up Big Ten play for your fourth game of the season. What are your thoughts on this game and who do you have winning?
Now, I will say quick before I get to that. Towards the beginning of this, you said that Ohio State has an easier schedule this year than last year. I will argue that I think they actually have a bit of a tougher schedule this year than last year, just for the fact that half of their schedule could possibly be against ranked teams, counting in Nebraska, possibly 7-0 coming to the shoe with their schedule. But versus Michigan State, obviously on the road, first true road test. I guess you could say, well, not first true because Michigan State ain't really that good. But I got Ohio State winning here by a fair margin, about 42-17.
I agree. I think Ohio State gets the win here. Now, this could be a potentially bit of a sneaky game if Ohio State doesn't come in playing their best game. But the only way I see them playing this game close is just if they hurt themselves. And this one, Michigan State could be a bit of a sneaky team with the new coaching staff and new quarterback, all these new pieces they have around them. But I think they will be improved from last year. But they don't have the talent to compete with Ohio State. I have a big win for the Buckeyes here. Then you get Iowa at home. What are your thoughts on this game and who do you have winning?
I think this might be a closer game than people expect. Just a little note here for people that might care. This is actually a game that Ohio State will be wearing their gray uniforms again. Obviously, Ohio State, Iowa, it's been back and forth. Probably a primetime game in my estimation. Obviously, we'll have to see how Iowa does on offense this year with how bad they were last year. But I have a Ohio State win at 3-38.
Yeah, I have an Ohio State win about that same margin, about 20 to 30 points. I think that early on in the game, Iowa's defense will be able to slow the Ohio State offense up a little bit, but I think they're going to wear down throughout the course of the game just because this Iowa offense is going to be so bad. I just don't see the defense getting the rest enough. I don't see Iowa being able to move the football on Ohio State. I think it'll be an easy win for the Hawkeyes. Now, this is probably your toughest game of the year. You got to go on the road to currently third-ranked Oregon. What are your thoughts on this game? Who do you have winning this one?
I think this game will be – I know this will probably set some people off, mainly Georgia fans, but I have a feeling this game is going to be 1 versus 2, actually. Obviously, AP poll, which doesn't, factor in a lot, but still, 1 versus 2 is a pretty big matchup. This is going to be a night game as Oregon has already announced a blackout game for this game. So you'd figure it'd be a night game. but obviously this will be Will Howard's first true test as a Buckeye. It's going to be a back and forth game. This might shock some people, but I have Oregon winning 34-31.
Yeah, I have this game being this may be the game of the year. It's up there. It's either going to be this one or Georgia Texas for game of the year. Um, I have Oregon winning this game. I think with this game being at Oregon, I think Oregon can compete with Ohio State when it comes to talent. I like Oregon a lot in this matchup. I just think it's going to be a tough environment for Ohio State. Um, Will Howard is a good quarterback, but I do give the advantage to Dylan Gabriel at Oregon. I think that Oregon offense is going to be able to outlast Ohio State. And so I have Oregon winning. I think it's going to be a close game. I don't see this game going either way by more than 10 points. So yeah, I have the Ducks in this one, giving Ohio State their first loss of the season. Then you get a bye week, and then you get Nebraska at home.
I will say before I move on to Nebraska, on that Oregon game again, quick. I will say it is always tougher to beat a good team twice. I would assume most people, I think it's pretty much already confirmed with how the Big Ten is laid out this year. We'll get this game twice, Oregon, Ohio State. So they could also meet it again in the playoffs. We'll have to see, but regardless, it's probably going to be a good game. It'll shock me if it's not a good game.
Yeah, only way I see this being a blowout either way is if there's some kind of, hopefully there's not, but if there's some kind of significant injury to either team, particularly a quarterback being injured, or something of that sort. That's the only way that I really see a blowout happen, especially if the injury comes in the game. But then, like I said, you get the bye week, then Nebraska at home. Thoughts on that one? Who do you have winning?
Obviously this is a slept-on matchup. With Nebraska coming to the shoe, in my opinion, it's a bit slept on. Obviously, Nebraska, basically Colorado game away from coming 7-0 to the shoe, if you really think about it. But I will say, I think that Ohio State does get the win here, even though I think it shouldn't, in my personal itself, be a primetime game for Scarlet the Shoe, even though it won't be. Big time matchup. It's going to be a big time atmosphere. Both teams will either have one loss or be undefeated coming into the game. I know that's a bit of a hot take. But I have Ohio State kind of giving Dylan Raiola his welcome to college football moment in a 52-10 win. Taking all their anger out for an Oregon loss.
Yeah, when you look at this Nebraska team, they as long as Dylan Raiola comes in and plays like everybody expects him to play, they'll be 7-0 coming into this one. They get UTEP at home, Colorado at home, Northern Iowa at home, Illinois at home, on the road at Purdue, Rutgers at home, at Indiana, then the Ohio State game. I just don't see if Dylan Raiola comes in and he plays like the hype builds him up to be. I just don't see a way Nebraska isn't undefeated coming into this game. And at 7-0, they're going to be ranked inside the top 20, regardless of what happens in that. If Ohio State beats Oregon, they'll be the number one team in the country, most likely. Number two at the very lowest. If they lose that Oregon game, they're still going to be ranked in the top 10, probably even still ranked in the top 5, top 7. So it's going to be a big matchup for sure. And I'm with you on this one. I have Ohio State winning. I don't know if it's going to be a 42-point win, but it's going to be a 20-plus point win, I think. I just don't see this Nebraska defense being able to contain this Ohio State offense over the span of 4 quarters. I think eventually they're going to break out and have a huge game. And so, yeah, I have Ohio State getting the victory in this one. Then you go on the road to Penn State. This is going to be a tough atmosphere for sure. Always is. What are your thoughts on this game, and who do you have winning?
This is another toss-up game, along with Oregon, I would say. I'd say Oregon and Penn State are really the 2 toss-up games on this schedule for the Buckeyes. Mainly the Oregon game. Penn State, not as much, obviously. No shade. Obviously, it also depends on how good Drew Allard would be. I'm not exactly sure of what Penn State's schedule is, but I do believe they could possibly be undefeated coming into this game, depending on how well they play. You also have to worry about, I will say this is my only worry. If Nebraska does come into the shoe 7-0, they would probably actually be ranked inside top 15. You're going to have that big game fallout against Penn State on the road at Penn State. Now, do we know if this is the whiteout game yet? No, we don't know if this is the whiteout game yet. I have actually not paid attention to it. The whiteout game has even been announced yet. But regardless, this is going to be a very close game. Two very good defenses, two of the top contenders in the Big Ten every single year. This game really relies on how much can Drew Allard grow from last year. Is what I really think it depends on. And obviously, with the loss of I forget the wide receiver that went to Auburn, transferred to Auburn. And obviously bringing Julian Fleming in from Ohio State, it also depends on how good Julian Fleming can be. Because to be honest, he really didn't impress me much at Ohio State, and obviously he got pushed down a little bit because of all the wide receiver talent they have had there. But overall, I think this is going to be another close game for the Buckeyes. I think this is kind of going to be a Notre Dame, Ohio State 2023 style game. Defense will win the game for either side. I'm going to go Ohio State 24, Penn State 14.
Yeah, I agree. I have Ohio State winning this game. I think it's going to be similar score to last year's game where Ohio State won 20-12. It'll be a tougher environment. I think that Penn State in Oregon's defenses will be one of the few that are actually able to contain this Ohio State offense and keep them under potentially 30 points. I think that Penn State can keep the scoring down, but I think they're going to have a harder time scoring than Ohio State will. And so, yeah, I think Ohio State wins this game anywhere from 7 to 14 points, somewhere in there. But it will be a tough game. It's not going to be one just walk in there and come away with an easy win. It'll be a tough one, but I feel like it's going to be one of those games where the score's close, but the game doesn't really feel close, if that makes any sense. But then moving on, you get Purdue at home. Thoughts on this one? Who do you have winning?
Do we even really need to discuss this game?
Not really.
Just a joke. It's fairly obvious. Obviously, at home, you got the home field advantage. So one thing I'd be worried about is, once again, the big game fallout. Purdue might get out of the gates earlier than Ohio State would. But I might see Purdue be good for about half of the first quarter, and that is basically it. Obviously, with Ohio State falling asleep a little bit. I got Ohio State in this game 63-3.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a big win for Ohio State. I could see this as a potential tricky game. We know Purdue has played some of these top teams now. You know, that's also been at their home stadium, not as much on the road. And only way I could see this being a little bit tricky is Ohio State's coming off a tough 3-game stretch, potentially 4-game stretch with Iowa thrown in there as well. But like you said, I don't see it being competitive for no more than the first quarter. I have Ohio State winning big. Then they get Northwestern again. I don't think we need to discuss this one. Both going to be a win.
I would say the one notable
thing about blowout, and the same thing with Indiana. Indiana could be a bit of a tricky game for a minute, just if you're looking ahead towards Michigan. But I don't think Ohio State's going to do that. And even if they do, I don't think Indiana has the talent to compete with them. So I don't think there'll be any disagreement there. Winning both of those. Then the game, the big one, the rivalry against Michigan. What are your thoughts on this game? Who do you have winning?
I will say, just a quick note. There's only really one notable thing about that Northwestern Ohio State game, and that is that it will be played at Wrigley Field this year.
Yes,
I think that's really the only thing that we need to know for those two games. And then obviously Senior Day for Ohio State, noon on Fox, already set. Michigan, Ohio State. Everybody already knows the stakes. Everybody's saying that's going to be less of a game this year than it was last year. where I can tell you one thing, it ain't going to mean anything less because Michigan and Ohio State, even though there's no divisions, will not be meeting in the Big Ten championship this year, and I can guarantee you that. So this game will just mean just as much this year for sure. And obviously, with it being in a shoe, this game is actually already sold out. I think, with Michigan losing all the talent, I think Orgy could be good. I think we'll have two one-loss teams meeting here with Michigan losing to Texas in a fairly close game, and obviously Ohio State losing to Oregon and potentially the game of the year with the way we have the schedule set out right now. Um, as of right now, obviously the only issue with Michigan using Orgy is he's not a great passer, and Ohio State's already got the best secondary in the game, so that's basically taken out of the game completely for Michigan, if not already completely. Um, so you basically stuck to the run game with Donovan Edwards and Alex Orgy. So I think, Ohio State really just needs to play their base defense, and that is it. Ohio State might have some issues getting out of the box because Michigan will have a pretty good defense again this year, especially on that defense line with Mason Graham, arguably the best defense lineman in the country. But I have Ohio State. I think everybody already knows where this is going. If I'm an Ohio State fan. I have Ohio State winning 45-10.
Yeah, I have Ohio State winning this game. I don't think it's going to be as much of a margin. I think it would be a fairly easy win. Sorta. I don't think the scoreboard will show it as much. I think Ohio State will be a little slow out of the gates at first in terms of scoring. I think it'll be a slower paced game. I think that's what Michigan wants, is to keep the ball out of Ohio State's offense's hands. But I don't think it's going to matter. I think Ohio State's going to get some points. I have this game finishing like 31-17, 31-20, somewhere around that margin, about a 14-point win for the Buckeyes, especially with this game being a home game. I think they finally get over that hump from the last 3 years. It's been slow, tripping them up, losing to Michigan. But I think they can finally get a win against the Wolverines. And
So do
so
we
that'll
might
wrap
well
up
just
the regular season for Ohio State. I believe we both had them at 11-1.
Yep. So do we might as well just want to do the Big Ten championship game because I think we already know who it's going to be, barring injury.
Yeah, probably going to be Oregon Ohio State, and that's going to be a good one. That'll be a rematch of the top game of the year. That'll be a fun game to watch. That's one you want another one of. But yeah, so that's going to wrap up today's video. Thank you guys for tuning in. Help me reach that goal of 1,400 subscribers by the end of August. Make sure you go check out the Football Extraordinaire on YouTube. I'll have his links in the description and pinned in the comment section. But we appreciate all of you guys